There was major movement in the quarterback battle on Sunday as the Chargers routed the Saints, and it was Trey Lance's legs that put him in pole position to back up Justin Herbert.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Drogemeyer, and we've been covering the Chargers now for 10 seasons, but this is our 8th year as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Thank you to the everydayers out there for making us your first listen. To make sure that you never miss the show, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. David, what do we got today?
Daniel, in the first preseason game, Trey Lance showed us the ability to have some touch and to be able to impact the game with his arm. In this game against the Saints, he showed us that he can also impact the game on the ground with his feet, making him very, very much an attractive option to potentially back up Justin Herbert. And on defense, Caleb Murphy was at it again. He is just solidifying his case, and I think he probably locked up a roster spot with another fantastic performance in this one. And speaking of undrafted free agents who showed out, my goodness, Eric Rodgers with 2 interceptions, including a pick six. If you want to make a statement, that's how you do it.
Yeah, and we finally got to see the rocket blast off, Rocket Sanders getting some run in this game, and I thought really kind of saved his day, or, put an exclamation point behind his performance with a late touchdown where he showed you a little bit of why this coaching staff is so excited about him. He definitely has some physical tools to be excited about, I would say, for sure. But today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off of your first purchase. David, there's a lot of moving and shaking after most preseason games, but I think one of the bigger position battles on this team is at the backup quarterback position, and we didn't necessarily think so, right? We, didn't see the Trey Lance signing coming when it happened, and ever since then, I think he's basically done everything he can to show that he should be the backup quarterback on this team. But the biggest difference between this week and last week is we got to see Taylor Heinicke this week. He's the one that went out with the starting offense. He got a few drives, couldn't get anything going, and it was Trey Lance that ended up being the better of the quarterback, had the offense moving most consistently on the day, which is just driving Brandon Staley crazy, of course. And also, just like you said, it was the ability to run. I mean, you look at his passing numbers, it's not going to be anything that woos you. 7 of 14, 55 yards, a passer rating of 60.1. Even with that, he still had major movement in this quarterback battle because when he needed it, he could rely on his legs that picked up several first downs and a touchdown.
Sure did. 7 carries for 48 yards and a rushing touchdown for Trey Lance. And yeah, he showed that ability, that twitch, right? And he was decisive with it when he knew things were breaking down around him and he feel like, hey, I'd just get out of here and go make a play. He was able to do that. He showed the speed, the decisiveness to be able to hit the outside and be able to get forward and get some major yards. A couple of big runs towards the back end set up that touchdown run, which was pretty much a design QB run where he basically was able to walk into the end zone practically untouched. I mean, just a fantastic performance again for Trey Lance, where he didn't probably have his best performance through the air. He was okay. I thought he was fine, but he was still able to impact the game, still able to move the football field, move the football down the football field, move the chains, be able to, keep the offense on the field and score points. He punctuated it with a touchdown. So I thought it was a strong performance for Trey Lance, who is continuously making that case to be the backup for Justin Herbert.
Yeah, it feels like he is it right now and created some real separation in that battle because of the performance of Taylor Heinicke as well. That has to kind of factor into it. But I love the point that you made there just about, what happens when you don't have it? What are you going to do when the receivers aren't getting open? And what are you going to do if, the passes are a little bit off or you have a couple of drops? A lot of times that just ends in 3 and outs and you just don't really get anything going. But with Trey Lance, several times on big third downs, when things broke down, when nobody was open, he used his legs and picked up key and crucial first downs. And we've talked about it before, that we believe that Greg Roman wants a dual threat quarterback as his backup like he had in Baltimore with Tyler Huntley, where he's able to kind of keep the ship afloat with Lamar Jackson out. You get that with Trey Lance. And after really a kind of whatever rushing performance, he didn't really run at all in the first game, which was kind of, you felt like he had to. Showed he could do it with the arm, like you said. And this week he showed you, hey, I can, when things aren't great, make it work with my legs and then, impact the game that way. But do have to talk about Taylor Heinicke. We knew he was going to get the start in this one. They kind of sent a weird message by not playing him last week. It was kind of like, where do you feel like he is in this? Is he so kind of ahead in the quarterback situation that you don't feel like you need to see him in that first game? Well, he got his chance to kind of make his first statement of the offseason to be the backup quarterback, David, and it didn't go up.
I mean, he made a statement, just not the type of statement that he wanted to make.
That's true.
Right?
That is true.
1 of 5, only completing 1 pass for 8 yards, and he just wasn't very accurate. I think one of the things that really stood out to me is he missed a wide open Tyler Conklin. That would have been a big play. I mean, probably at least 20 yards down the football field. And, he just didn't look comfortable. It was inaccurate, and, it was not a very strong performance for Taylor Heinicke. He got a couple of drives, just didn't seem like he was able to move the offense down the field, and that's not good. And obviously this is a guy who has a ton of experience, in the past, but I don't think this is a guy that should be held out of preseason games, especially after that performance. Like, he's going to have to come back and really show that, hey, this was the anomaly here. This was the blip on the radar. This is not the status. This is not how it's going to be going forward. He has to definitely erase this one with the spectacular performance, because he can see right now that his job is definitely slipping away.
Well, and especially as all these other guys stand out, and I'm not even talking about just at the quarterback position, but so many guys making such good
roster
cases
spot
for the roster.
Yeah,
it feels very real. The Chargers could just keep 2 quarterbacks in this season. It feels like it only makes sense to keep 2 quarterbacks. I go as far as saying, and right now Trey Lance seems to be that guy, and it feels like this battle is done unless a total implosion from Trey Lance, which we've seen him do in the preseason with a 6 turnover game against the Chargers last year.
Thankfully, Tony's on the other side now.
Right, yeah. Tony, again, awesome today, of course. Preseason All-Pro for sure. But, yeah, I mean, missed Tyler Conklin, and just, several passages weren't on the money. Just didn't see guys that were open. Not a good game for Taylor Heinicke. He'll have to be really good the next couple of weeks just to give himself a chance at this point.
Yeah.
It feels like it's crazy how far things have swung in the other direction there. But have to also shout out offensively Dalevon Campbell, who has a big game. Finally saw it translate into game action, because this is a guy we've been given notes from for most of camp so far, right? A guy making big plays, a guy we've told you has been mixed in with the first team offense at wide receiver, especially when they were dealing with some injuries. A big, fast outside receiver who Jim Harbaugh said caught the most go balls so far in training camp, and that's what the big play was today. He leads the team, 3 catches, 63 yards, also tacks on a contested catch in the end zone for a 2-point conversion. Man, so cool. These are the great stories you look for every year, and Dalevon Campbell finally put his name on the map with a big game performance.
Yep, and it was punctuated with that big 51-yard reception from DJ Uiagalelei. So that
Great
was
ball
really
tracking too.
Really fantastic, really fun, really exciting. And for Dalevon Campbell, whenever you're looking at guys to bring in from your undrafted free agency, right, you're looking at guys that have unbelievable traits, right? Something that you think you can take and you can mold and you can utilize, right? And just see what they can do with some training, with some coaching. Dalevon Campbell, 6'4", 220 plus with, great speed. All he's been doing throughout training camp is making those type of plays, using that size that, God has given him to really be able to out-jump people, to be able to go up and get the football and impose his will. And if he keeps doing that, man, he's going to be able to at least put himself on the radar for a practice squad spot. I just think, man, this Chargers wide receiver room is just unbelievably hard to be able to crack with the way things have set up so far. But, hey, keep making plays and anything can happen.
Yeah, he's playing for a job, whether it's with the Chargers or someone else. But I'd say he's the prime wide receiver to get that training camp spot, at least, or that practice squad spot right now. I mean, look at him and Brendan Rice, right? Both had deep balls they had to track down the field, and both had opportunities to make a big play. And Dalevon Campbell's the one that came up with it, right? But also had, more than half of the team receiving yards in this game because of that big 51-yarder. And DJ Uiagalelei is has thrown like 3 passes, but has like been perfect so far in his very short preseason career. But either way,
take it.
Man, I mean, he doesn't get to throw much, but when he throws, he's been throwing it pretty damn well. But let's get to the defensive side, because we have a guy in Caleb Murphy that pretty much locked up his roster spot on Sunday, and one guy who may have locked up a roster spot, and also we might not see him again, and Eric Rogers. So I have to talk about that because he was the player of the game and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of the year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and it means fantasy football season is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. This year, me, David, and Locked On Chargers are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. And I love all of the features that come along with Yahoo Fantasy. One of the best decisions my fantasy groups ever made was making the switch over the last couple of years. And it has just been such a great thing for me, especially as someone who likes to lock in last-minute lineups and handle it the way I do, which is at 9:55 in the morning on Sundays. But to celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped the Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week, and there's one team left standing. With the season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're more into the classics, you can still play the head-to-head private leagues or join a public league as well. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. David, let's get to the guys that made big impacts on the defensive side of things. And this guy we're talking about here was an undrafted free agent at one point, but he tagged on with the Chargers last year, and I think it really has given him a big advantage going into this camp, and it is Caleb Murphy, who last year was with the Titans. They ended up waiving him, and then he caught on with the Chargers, played a couple of games, a lot of special teams, and we knew that he had special teams value. We've seen him do it, and also he's had the biggest play last week on special teams where he held up the ball carrier and let Kendall Williamson punch the ball out for a fumble on the first play of the game against the Lions in the Hall of Fame game. Caleb Murphy today did it more defensively. And Jim Harbaugh said he should have had 3 sacks in this game, and he absolutely should have. He's the one that brought the quarterback down on the one that they gave to Marlo Wax, who was also really good in this game. But David, 2 sacks that should have been 3 sacks on the day. Also tacked on a special teams tackle on the punt unit too. And you have Jim Harbaugh saying that he called the game. He's like, hey, I'm so humble that I can't tell you that Caleb Murphy, I called it when I said Caleb Murphy would have a great game, but I did call it, and I told the team that, and everybody heard me say it. But, man, I can't think of anyone through 2 preseason performances that has helped their case more than Caleb Murphy. There's guys who have had one big game in each week, right? Caleb Murphy, if it ended today, Caleb Murphy would be on this roster, and it would be a lock.
Yeah, no question. Hashtag humble brag from the head coach of the Chargers, Jim Harbaugh.
So
of course,
funny, man.
Acting like, it's a surprise for him to know football. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I made him the game captain today. I don't know if you saw that.
Just saying. That was me, guys. Again, Caleb Murphy just doing absolutely everything he can in his power to be able to force himself onto this football team, right? And I think before, when this, training camp, when this preseason started, his roster spot was not available. It wasn't there. It's something he had to make happen. Yeah. And when you have performances like this, the 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, 2 QB hits, one of those being a strip sack, and then also making an impact on special teams, it's so very important, because if you're going to be that last edge defender on the roster, you have to be able to play special teams. It's just a prerequisite. You're not going to be able to make this team without doing that. So showing that he's going to be able to be a force on special teams and be able to show that bend, that's really that explosive speed and bend around the corner. He beat that right tackle like a drum on that strip sack where he's able to bend around the corner and then had the wherewithal to go for the football. I think it was a few years ago where the Chargers coaching staff basically said, hey, Joey, I know you can get after the quarterback, but why don't you get the ball? Get the ball out instead. And then he had, 5 or 6 strip sacks. That's an incredible way to impact the game. Getting after the quarterback and getting him on the ground is one thing. Getting the ball out and getting it back to your offense, that's way more impactful. So a great performance from Caleb Murphy.
Yeah, I mean, you turn the ball over like that, it's going to put you on the radar, but he was already squarely in the mix. Somebody we told you to watch out for going into the first preseason game, right? But had, a hand in 3 of the 5 Chargers sacks that they had today, just making a really good case for the 53-man roster, and Jim Harbaugh said the same thing. But talking about a rookie, man, all of the talk, at least in the cornerback room, has been about Nico Reed, and rightfully so. He backed up a strong camp with a huge performance last week, had a pick that should have been a pick 6, also had a big pass breakup that might have, turned into a big play. And then he got hurt, and he didn't play this week. And this week, it was a different undrafted rookie that put his name on the map, and that was Eric Rodgers. 2 interceptions, including a pick 6. Also had a pass breakup on a 3rd down, basically got you the ball back 3 times defensively. 3 times defensively, he put the ball back in your offense's hands. Crazy. Such a great game. Someone that we've seen here and there making plays at camp, but not someone we necessarily took seriously, just because there are some established guys at the top of that cornerback room where, like, the wide receivers, not as strong, but man, you felt like you knew who was going to make the team at that position. And this dude, absolutely, we'll see what happens, because he got hurt on the kickoff at the end of the game. He was in crutches in the locker room. But man, if he can get back at a reasonable time at all, it's hard not to think that he put himself in position to at least make a run at a roster spot.
And he's a big corner, Daniel. I mean, 6'2", talking about 190 here. Like, that's elite size. And obviously, we saw the speed, right? You saw it with his ability to go lay out for that ball with that interception, be able to get back on his feet immediately and take off for a beautiful pick 6 interception, which that was a great pick, obviously. I mean, a fantastic play. I think his second pick might have been even better, with him being able to kind of just drift back, and then be able to go get the football and basically, ice the game at that point. That was pretty much all she wrote there. Big impactful performance from him with 5 tackles to go along with it. It wasn't just the interceptions. He was all over the football field making quality tackles as well. Man, that's a big-time performance from Eric Rodgers, and it is very unfortunate that, he was unable to finish the game, and it happened on special teams on a kick return, like a kickoff or a kick coverage, which, man, I mean, obviously, they even said it on the broadcast, like this change in the rules was to try to protect guys from getting hurt, and we saw a couple of guys on both sides, unfortunately, go down with injuries because of the kickoffs. So hopefully that's something that doesn't carry over going forward. But yeah, hopefully he's able to make his way back on the field, because, man, every single day right now for an undrafted free agent trying to make a roster that you're not on the field, that you're not able to, get out there and make plays, it is going to have a huge detrimental impact on your ability to be able to make the football team.
One for him, too, also came in a game where 7th-round pick Triquez Bridges really struggled to, got brought on to double move for a 54-yard touchdown, didn't have the best game. So it was like, hey, if there is a guy that has a chance at the end, Eric Rodgers put himself there, but also we might have seen the end of his Chargers career, too, just depending on if he can get back or not, because one strong game probably isn't enough to make the roster. But let's talk about one more guy defensively here that stood out, and that was Jamaree Caldwell, who had another strong showing on Sunday, 4 total tackles and a sack. And one of the things you love about him is just, man, with his size and his reach and those big long arms, like, he absolutely swallowed the quarterback when he tried to run on that play and secured that sack. And that, there's different kinds of sack. That was more of like a cleanup sack, but he found himself in the right place at the right time. Whereas someone like Caleb Murphy, like, he just beat that dude, like you said, quick win, got the sack. But Jamaree Caldwell now, this is 2 weeks in a row where he's looked really, really good. And another guy, unfortunately, who after the sack came off holding his arm, and we'll see what ends up happening with that, So I didn't see him come back in the game. But either way, like, this is a guy that as a 3rd-round pick, many people questioned, many people thought it was a reach. And all he's done so far is show, hey, not only can I stand up against double teams and shed blockers and make plays in the running game, but I have a little pass rush upside as well.
That, I think, is the biggest thing right there. I think we always knew, when we watched the tape, that this is a guy that was going to be able to take on double teams. That was going to be a monster in run support, and he absolutely has been that. I think the one thing that's been very exciting for me is his effort level has been crazy. For a man of his size to be able to be running sideline to sideline all over the football field. And also, I did see him later on in the football game because I watched the game twice.
Did he get back in?
He didn't get back in, but he was moving around fine on the sideline. It seemed like it was something that might have messed him up slightly, but I think he was okay. It just
it was
felt like
an arm
at that
injury,
point,
so it'd be hard.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I didn't see him holding his arm or anything like that, but hopefully it's not anything serious because he showcased that pass rush ability, which, we know the Chargers lost a good amount of pass rush from the interior with a couple of guys that walked in free agency. So for him showing that quickness, that niftiness, I think was really, really exciting. And just a guy who feels like the Chargers got another winner in the draft. And man, Joe Ortiz, my hat's off to you, man. Just seems like 2 drafts back to back, getting impact players up and down the draft. I mean, this guy was fantastic again, and I'm very excited for what he's going to be able to do and how he's going to be able to show out on this Chargers defensive line.
Yeah, and we were really unclear of what his role would be, but at this point, I mean, it feels like it might already be one of their top 3 defensive linemen on this roster in a room that's been pretty good so far and helped this defensive front.
Shout out to Deshaun Hand, too, who absolutely crushed Spencer Rattler, too.
Yeah, that was a big hit. But as a front, they held the non-quarterbacks on the Saints to 1.9 yards per carry, 15 carries for 29 yards. Extremely stout in that department as well. So we still have more to get into, including the running backs, because once again, a bunch of guys had a big game, including Rocket Sanders in his first action. Showed you a little bit of why this team is so excited about him. We're getting into all that and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. We've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever, and the prices actually drop as the closer it gets to showtime, and you can save up to 60% with their killer last minute deals. One of the things I love too is just if you have a night off, if you find some spare time, if you have a babysitter, go scroll on the Game Time app and you'll be surprised at what events might be happening near you. And you don't have to worry about it being last minute because the later it gets, sometimes the better the price gets for you with Game Time. And you can see the view from your seats and also know exactly what you're going to pay before you hit the checkout. So take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. We still have some more standout players from this game we have to get into today, because we won't be able to get to all of them. But the good news is we have Buy or Sell Tuesday tomorrow. We're getting into the biggest Charger storylines and overreactions. So if you guys want to get in on that, make sure you hit us up at Locked On LAC on Twitter, at Locked On Chargers on our Instagram to give us your buy or sells on there. Call into 323-524-7924. Love our Buy or Sell Tuesday shows. But also, thank you guys for making us your first listen, especially after the game. We'll usually be going live. Obviously, I had a really long day today. I had the postcast earlier, so if you guys want to check out the squad show where we did an hour with Kenyon Barner and Pete Fox, you guys can check that out. It was actually a really good show this week, so definitely worth checking out. But if you need a second listen, make sure to check out Locked On Bets with Kevin Rogers and Lee Sterling, as they give you daily MLB locks and also some great NFL futures on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts from. Let's get to the running backs, David, and talking about Rocket Sanders first, just because he was not just had a good game, but one of the guys we've been waiting to see, one of the guys that we knew would be one of the undrafted free agents we were going to possibly fall in love with and think would have a chance at this roster. And I think maybe we didn't see everything from Rocket on Sunday, right? But he had a great first showing, I would say. Whether, he had a great first down catch on, I believe, a third down, a little back shoulder throw, created separation. Maybe a little tiny push off, but found a way to get open down the field and made the catch from Trey Lance to pick up a big first down. And then to me, the other big one was the touchdown at the end. That was it for me. You could see it. He starts at the middle, he sucks in the entire defense, and then he had the burst at that size to get outside, to get the corner, and to be able to find that angle to the pylon to get into the end zone. And that I thought was okay, that now you can kind of see a little bit of those special traits that might give him a chance to make up some ground that he maybe missed by missing last week's game.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of fanfare, a lot of hype kind of surrounding Rocket Sanders. The Chargers clearly coveted him. You know, they gave him some money to guarantee his services, and unfortunately, some injuries have kind of derailed his beginning to, you know, his NFL career. But this was his first opportunity to get into the game, and he was productive. 10 carries, 42 yards. That's 4.2 yards a carry. Obviously, that really, really nice touchdown that you talked about. Just, you know, it's surprising, a little bit surprising for me to see his ability to be able to cut off and be able to have the burst and speed at that size. We're talking about 225, 230 to be able to win the edge and to be able to get to the end zone. That was very, very impressive to me. I mean, he definitely ran with some power. I like that he showcased the hands as a receiver, because that's not something we really heard anything about. But I mean, hey, you know, you want to be able to help yourself and help the team in as many ways as you possibly can. Showing that power, showing that speed, and showing some hands, that's definitely going to be a good, nice showing for Rocket Sanders.
Yeah, and not only that, you know, shout out to Daniel Popper, who talked to them in the locker room after the game, and he was like, I knew by their defensive front that I was going to be able to get them there, you know, and that's one of the things that has been pointed out about him at practice, is just the patience, being able to follow your blocks, being able to, you know, have the vision to see it before it happens. And he said, I knew the safeties were going to crash inside, and I was going to be able to get that corner. And then you watch it back, and you can see it, right? He waits, and he explodes to the outside, and he knew he was going there all the way, and he knew he was going to be able to get that corner. But to have that kind of size speed combo is something that even at the NFL level, you know, obviously this is a preseason game, but it did look different. And I think the only thing that makes it so tough is how well all the other running backs have been playing, including Hassan Haskins, David. And I think for me, the kind of part that stands out with Hassan through 2 weeks, for someone that we knew is more of a special teams player, kind of a no-frills running back, but through 2 games, I thought the physicality he's been running with has been a standout part of his game.
I mean, he's a bigger running back, and he's running like a bigger running back, right? If you're going to be that big guy, then I need you to be able to run in between the tackles and be able to make it look good and be able to run through people and get positive yards. He's absolutely done that. In this game, another good performance. 6 carries for 33 yards. That's 5.5 yards a clip. That'll play every single day. Also threw in a couple catches, 2 catches on 2 targets for 12 yards for Mr. Hassan Haskins, and I feel like another great performance. I mean, we already know what his applications are on special teams. We know he's very important in that respect. We also know that the connection there between him and Jim Harbaugh dating back to their Michigan days. So Hassan Haskins just seems to be a very steady hand, a guy that whenever they're able to get the ball in his hands, he's able to make a positive play out of it. And you're able to do that, then you're going to be able to make a roster.
Well, I think last year, you know, he was the short yardage guy, which I think skewed with some of his numbers a little bit. I'd say the biggest play was the kind of check down against the Broncos, where he pretty much sealed that game late, you know, got in space and looked pretty good when he got there. But yeah, I mean, through 2 games has been their most consistent running back. I mean, he put up nearly identical stat lines, you know, in the first couple of games. All in all, it's 12 carries for 67 yards, 5.6 yards per carry. So
I love it.
We know about the special teams ability, but also, it felt like he needed to show that he was a little bit more than that, just because of how well the other guys are playing.
No
I wasn't sure if the special teams alone would be able to have him keep a Rocket Sanders or one of these other guys off of the roster. So he's showing that, you know, and he's probably going to get quite a bit of run over these last couple of games too, and he'll have to continue doing it. But talking about stock up for both of those guys, Rocket and you know, I thought, and Hassan Haskins, but I thought, you know, come on, Vidal. Kind of a whatever game, right? 2.7 yards per carry, 6 carries for 16 yards. Maybe he lost a little ground in the running back battle. But the stock down for this one has to be Nyheim Miller-Hines, because the one thing he could bring to the table is the special teams value as a returner. Has returned punts and kicks at a high level in his NFL career. He's obviously trying to make a comeback after a 2-year layoff after a freak jet ski accident. But there's not much he could have done to hurt his stock more than he did today, David, because he had 2 opportunities to catch punts. He muffed 2 punts. You can't muff 2. You can't muff 2. If you muff 1, maybe there's a way to kind of, you know, still kind of make it back from that. But, man, you can't muff 2 punts. Even if you only lose 1, it almost doesn't matter.
Well, it just covers up all of the other positive things that he did on the field, right? You just don't remember any of them, even though he was fantastic in pass protection, just stonewalling guys. I mean, he really was the reason why Trey Lance
That was the best
able
part
to
of his
escape
game on Sunday.
the outside was because of his pass protection, and he also broke a defender's ankles with a nasty juke on the outside. But you muff 2 punts, none of that matters. None of that other positive work means anything because of the turnovers. You cannot turn the football over in this game, and if you do, you are not going to be on the field. Period.
That's well, and especially with the other guys playing well. And then that's the thing, is like maybe if there was just like a huge opening and nobody else was really going to try to grab that spot, maybe you could get away with it. But like his main kind of calling card here is why he would be a great, fit in this room and why he should be on the roster as opposed to one of these other guys was the ability, hey, if something happens to Darius Davis, you don't have to use Ladd as a punt returner, right? You can put me out there and I can bring something to the table in that regard. So it's not, a total death knell to him, but it felt like he lost major ground in the running back battle just with those 2 muff punts. I thought it was just like, man, that sucks because like this dude has been kind of impressive, but 4 carries for 10 yards plus 2 muff punts. Just not a good day. Not a good day for Nyheim Miller-Hines. But I think you're right. Not enough love for him as far as the pass protection goes. All these guys, have pass protected pretty well so far, and that could be in a very tight battle what ends up deciding it. Because guess what? You get Justin Herbert hit, you're going to leave the field pretty quickly, and even if it's not him out there in the preseason, you let Trey Lance get hit, you let Taylor Heineke get hit. All those coaches see is Justin Herbert on the ground. They don't see Taylor Heineke on the ground. They see Justin Herbert on the ground, even in a preseason game, because if you make that mistake in a real game, it could be what costs your team the season, period. That's all, So I think it's a great point to bring up, the actual pass blocking from the running backs and how important that will be and what ends up deciding a battle that's pretty hotly contested. We'll see what happens with Najee Harris. But if Najee Harris comes back this week, right, and he kind of returns to being a legitimate RB2 on this roster, then it changes the math a little bit. But if he has to miss some time at the beginning of the season, that opens up another spot for one of these guys. And there's probably a couple of different guys you could say deserves it at this point. But that's going to wrap things up for today's show. A lot of guys we couldn't mention, a lot of guys who had big games, but the great news is we'll be back with you guys all week, including tomorrow with Buy or Sell Tuesday, getting into the biggest Charger storylines and overreactions. I have a few. It's time to be concerned about Trey Harris a little bit after 2 games with no catches so far. We'll talk about that and much more, but to get yours on, hit us up at LockedOnLAC to put your question on Twitter, at LockedOnChargers on Instagram. You can put your buy or sell there or call into the voicemail line at 323-524-7924 and give us your 30-second Chargers buy or sell, because I know there's a lot of overreactions and storylines to get to right now. But we'll be back with you guys tomorrow. To make sure you never miss the show, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. But make sure you're back for buy or sell. Until then, take it easy and go Bulls.